I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
I love doing the same things over and over again, whether that would be watching the same video on YouTube or making poor financial decisions. However, I also love doing the same thing over and over again in video games. It's like going down a water slide or walking through a haunted house or riding a roller coaster, even if I've never rode one before, but people have done it once, maybe twice. But there's something about those experiences that keeps pulling you back for more. You might know what's coming, you expected it, but you still want to experience that thrill again. And that is replayability in games. Now, a lot of games these days are all about replayability. It seems like every new release is trying to find ways to keep players coming back, from extra content like DLC, updates, and seasons, to just a game design built to encourage repeated playthroughs. And developers have worked hard to make sure you get more bang than your buck. And it's not just the number of hours you put into a game, it's the quality of those hours that make you want to dive back in. Replayability has become a huge part of modern game design, but what exactly makes the game replayable? Is it the mechanics, the story, or maybe it's the way the game lets you explore different possibilities, unlock secrets, or challenge yourself to do better? Replayability is what makes certain games stick with us, and it's that little something extra that keeps you coming back, even when you've technically quote-unquote completed the game. Of course, replayability in games are varied and has its own standards depending on whether you're diving into more of a single-player experience or a multiplayer one. A single-player game might have replayability through different story paths or character choices or side content, while a multiplayer game might keep you coming back with a competitive feel to it or a community to challenge. But let's start with single-player games. In single-player games, replayability is often driven by how much freedom the game gives you to experiment, make different choices, or experience new content. Maybe you're tackling a branching storyline or exploring different character builds. Single-player games can make you feel like every playthrough is unique, but it depends on how much variation the game offers. I have spent countless hours on games like Mass Effect, The Witcher 3, Fallout New Vegas, or Cyberpunk 2077, but once I jump back into those games again, I might make completely different choices, approach quests in another way, or even use a different combat style by building my character in a certain way. The more variety a game can offer, the more reason it gives me, the player, to come back playing. Then there are roguelike games like Risk of Rain or Binding of Isaac or Returnal or Vampire Survivors or Hades or RoboQuest or Dead Cells and more, where replayability is essentially baked into the design itself. Every time you start a new run, the game feels familiar because you're using the same weapons and fighting the same enemies, despite the maps being randomized and so is the loot you get. Even if you're technically doing the same thing over and over, the unpredictability of how the game evolves with each run is what makes it feel fresh. And that's a huge part of why people keep coming back. It's a sort of blend of both the unknown and the known, if that makes sense, keeping the experience exciting even after countless replays. And it's not just RPGs or roguelikes that make a game replayable. Linear games can be just as replayable. Even if a game follows a set path with a fixed story, the way it's designed can make you want to return. For example, a game with branching story elements or multiple endings can offer replay value, as you'll want to see how your choices impact the world or uncover all the narrative possibilities. And a perfect example of this is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, this game on the surface looks like it's a linear first-person shooter with a pretty straightforward narrative, but There's a lot of replay value packed into the game actually. The campaign features multiple endings, so depending on the choices you make, the story can unfold in different ways. It's not just about playing through the same missions again, it's seeing how your decisions impact the narrative. Then there's games like Resident Evil 4 or The Last of Us, and it's again a linear game with a focused story, but the gameplay and challenge make it worth replaying. You might go for a higher difficulty to try and unlock all the weapons and upgrades, and that experience changes the dynamic of each run. Even games that don't offer huge branching storylines like Uncharted, they can still pull you back with their combat or exploration and the sense of progression. The tighter, more focused nature of linear games doesn't mean they're any less replayable. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's the craftsmanship of the level design, the combat flow, or the puzzle mechanics that make you want to experience the game again, even if the story remains the same. Now let's take another example, and I like to coin this term replayability with mastery, with games like Ultra Kill, Devil May Cry, or Bayonetta. And these games might not have much to offer on a surface level, like not having tons of weapons or levels, but they pull you back in with the promise of perfecting your skills. And these games thrive on a ranking system, challenging players to learn combos and optimize their moves, so they're not spamming the same combo to finish levels expected to get a higher rank, which is literally impossible. And it's not about how much content there is, but more so about how deeply engaged you are with the mechanics. And what's even better is that these games often hide secrets within their missions, whether it's collectibles or secret rooms or bonus fights. There's always something new to discover, even on your 1 billionth playthrough of the same mission. Uncovering these secrets makes replaying levels feel fun, so now there's an incentive to explore more levels and uncover more secrets, and also achieve higher ranks. And achieving higher ranks often comes with in-game rewards. In many cases, earning top ranks can grant you extra currency to spend on upgrades or new abilities, or even unlock secret missions that challenge the player due to their skill. For instance, in Ultra Kill, getting the P rank or perfect rank can not only make your mission select screen look nice so you can show it off to your friends on Discord, but it can also lead to unlocking secret levels that would eventually lead you to a fight that tests your skills, from a mini boss to a gauntlet where the game just throws everything at you because of how far you've come, and eventually you fight the big bad boss of that level. Now let's talk remakes or remasters, because nowadays we've been getting a lot of those kinds of games. And a good remake or remaster can breathe what's basically a new life into a game, giving players more reason to revisit classic games. But here's the thing, it's not as simple as slapping some updated graphics and calling it a day. Replayability in remakes and remasters hinges on whether the changes they make enhance or detract from what made the original so special. For example, Resident Evil. The remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 4 are prime examples of how to do it right. Capcom didn't just update the visuals, but they also modernized the gameplay while respecting what fans loved about the originals. Resi 2's remake transformed the fixed camera angles into an over-the-shoulder perspective, which basically added a whole new layer of immersion while keeping the tension intact. It's still scary and challenging, but now it feels fresh even if you've played the original before. And with Resident Evil 4, the over-the-shoulder view is still there, but now instead of Leon having to stand still then aim to shoot, Capcom decided to make the gameplay reminiscent of RE2. That means you can move while aiming and shooting, which I think is nice for both veteran RE fans and newer fans that just got into the series. But then there's the other side of the coin, that being some remakes and remasters make changes that frankly don't sit well with fans. Maybe the gameplay gets dumbed down or changed in a drastic way, or mechanics that defined the original are clearly reworked or removed, and when that happens, the replay value takes a hit because the new version just doesn't hold the same candle as the original. and graphics are often the big selling point of remakes. But honestly, remakes in graphical remakes don't matter as much to me, and what matters, at least to me anyway, is the gameplay and how the remake or remaster feels to play, and whether it improves or at least preserves the fun of the original. Examples being Persona 3 Reload, which I actually want to try someday. The original Persona 3 is beloved by many or hated by some because it had mechanics and quirks that some fans adore and others think feel dated. The remake added some features that weren't present in the original while also reworking some of the gameplay. Then you have remaster collections like Silent Hill HD Collection and the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is my favorite, which both are more remasters than full remakes. They polished up the visuals, streamlined some gameplay mechanics, and bundled everything together. What's great about this is that it gives players a reason to replay the trilogy, while also making it more accessible to newer audiences. It's not about reinventing the wheel, but more so enhancing the experience so it still holds up today. And the danger that comes with remaking or remastering a game is that sometimes they sacrifice too much of what made the original fun in the first place. There's this worry in chasing modern trends or trying to appeal to a broader audience. The developers might strip out quirks and charm that give their game its identity. And when that happens, replay value of the remake suffers because it just doesn't hit the same way. On the flip side, remakes and remasters that focus on gameplay improvements or quality of life updates and respectful modernization can make a classic feel like discovering all over again. And graphics are nice, sure, but if the gameplay doesn't hold up or the remake doesn't respect the original spirit, then what's the point? So, remakes and remasters, I think they're a sort of a double-edged sword for replayability. When done well, they can make a classic feel timeless, and when done poorly, they can just make you wish you just go back to the original instead. Now, enough about single-player games. I feel like I've been yapping for too long, so yeah, time to move on to replayability. And multiplayer games are a whole different beast. Unlike single-player games, where the game world is static and controlled, multiplayer games thrive on predictability. The thing that keeps you coming back isn't just the gameplay and mechanics, it's the people. And the other players are what make every match either feel like a fresh challenge or a mosh pit filled with greasy god sweats or a lobby full of cheaters. Multiplayer replayability depends on the game's ability to consistently attract and retain players. Let's be real, a lot of multiplayer games these days have come and gone because they could not crack this formula. If the gameplay loop doesn't click with the community, or if the developers fail to support the game with updates and improvements, then of course the player base drops off, and without people, the game dies. And we've seen this happen time and time again. Games that come out with big hype only to fade into obscurity or shut the servers down within months or years after because they just couldn't maintain a strong, dedicated player base that'll eventually make it to I call it the multiplayer legends, or the games that have stood the test of time. Games like Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six Siege or Dota 2 or Team Fortress 2 or even League of Legends. These games have communities of players that have been playing for years, even decades in some cases. Why? Well, that's easy. Because they nailed the replayability loop in a way that very few games manage to do. For one, these games make it easy to get into but hard to master. The barrier to entry isn't too high, but you can jump in, learn the basics, and start having fun relatively quickly. But as you play more, you start to notice all the little nuances. You learn new strategies or try out different roles, experiment with mechanics, and figure out how to counter other players. That depth keeps you hooked onto it because there's always something new to learn, no matter how long you've been playing. Now, to me, the key to longevity of these games is how their developers keep things fresh. whether it's new maps or new weapons or balance patches, and the devs behind these games know that keeping the community engaged is crucial. At the same time, they also respect what made the game great in the first place. They're not afraid to innovate, but they don't alienate the core audience, and that's a tough balance to strike these days, because when it works, it just makes something special. Now, let's be real. Replayability isn't always perfect, and some games make replaying them feel more like a chore than an adventure. There are times when replayability just leans heavily into being too tedious or grindy or just plain repetitive. Maybe the game requires you to slog through the same missions without much variation, or it ties progression to endless grinding for items, upgrades, or achievements. And it's easy for a game to fall into the trap of padding its length rather than creating meaningful reasons to come back. But even in those moments, there's something about replayability that keeps pulling us back, especially when it's a series or a game we're familiar with or we love. Familiarity with the mechanics, the story, or the world can make revisiting these experiences oddly comforting. Even if the game's structure has its flaws, anything has flaws. Replayability at its core blends the feeling of experiencing fresh content with the comfort of knowing the game inside and out. And this is why second playthroughs are so important. A second playthrough shouldn't feel like a grind, it should feel like an opportunity. It should be rewarding and exciting, not monotonous or tedious. And this, at least to me, is where features like New Game Plus shine. They give the players a chance to revisit the game with a fresher perspective, retaining their progress while also discovering new layers to the experience, whether it's unlocking harder difficulties or accessing previous unavailable areas or experimenting with a completely different playstyle. Second playthroughs should give you a reason to dive back in. And sometimes, replaying a game isn't even about discovering new content. It's simply about wanting to spend more time in a world you love and revisiting favorite moments or challenging yourself to approach the game differently. Games don't always have to be replayed to be satisfying. Just the experience of finishing them can be enough. But when the game gives you that I just have to go back feeling, that is when replayability becomes something special. Let me tell you, it's that good shit.